Hello, my name is Adrienne Allison, and I'm the university's Title IX coordinator. I work with a great team of colleagues in the university's Equal Opportunity and Compliance Office. I'm here to talk with you today about the university's shared community expectations as found in the Policy on Prohibited Discrimination, Harassment, and Related Misconduct. In this session, we will highlight Carolina's definition of consent to sexual activity, and we will also highlight important information about supporting options. Please note, we will be talking about sexual and interpersonal violence in this session. Everyone at Carolina has the right to a safe and welcoming campus. The campus should be a place where you can focus on the things that really matter most: learning, working, building friendships, and growing professionally and personally. Let's also recognize that coming to Carolina will be a time of change and challenge. We're a campus of diverse opinions. We come from different backgrounds and we all hold different beliefs. So there may be times when people may not agree with each other, and this can be uncomfortable. Still, there's a difference between being challenged in your beliefs and as an academic institution, we embrace the First Amendment, and sometimes that means we're going to have uncomfortable conversations. But feeling uncomfortable is different from being discriminated against or harassed based on your identity. Let's talk more about what I mean by discrimination and harassment. The Equal Opportunity and Compliance Office, or EOC, is responsible for the Policy on Prohibited Discrimination, Harassment, and Related Misconduct. The policy details the university's commitment to provide a safe, diverse, and equitable environment for all members of the Carolina community. You have agreed to this policy by enrolling in Carolina. The policy, like others that you will learn about during orientation, applies to your behavior today and throughout your time as a Carolina student. The policy applies to your behavior online as well as in person, on campus, and off. The policy prohibits discrimination or harassment based on any identity that is considered a protected status, and you can see the list of protected statuses on this slide. The policy also covers sexual assault as a form of discrimination based on sex, and the policy covers interpersonal or relationship violence, stalking, and retaliation. We're going to walk through more information about these types of misconduct that violate our ideals of safety, equity, and respect for diversity. After today, if you have questions or want to read more about the policy and related information, you can check out the link noted in the lower right-hand part of the screen, safe.unc.edu. I've used the words harassment and discrimination a few times, so let's define these ideas. As you can read, discrimination may occur when a person or group is treated differently based on protected status, and that different treatment interferes with their ability to access their education or employment at Carolina. This might include refusing to accommodate with a disability or excluding someone from a school event because of their identity. Harassment is a form of discrimination. With harassment, the conduct is usually repeated and ongoing. Harassment has the similar effect of limiting someone's access to a university activity or program. And you can see that we reference two different types of harassment: quid pro quo harassment and hostile environment. When considering what quid pro quo harassment might look like, perhaps one of the easiest examples to give is in the realm of sexual harassment. If you do something for me, for example, give me a kiss, I'll do something for you, quid pro quo. Or if you don't do something for me, for example, go on a date with me, I will do something to you, such as exclude you from a student organization. Let's look more closely at hostile environment harassment. When considering hostile environment harassment, looking at an action or words by a person or group against another person or group of people. If someone repeatedly makes demeaning jokes about another person's religion or ethnicity, or sends offensive emails relating to a person's protected status, this might be considered harassment. Generally speaking, saying something one time, perhaps misspeaking, isn't considered harassment. However, if someone repeatedly calls another person or group by an ethnic slur or repeatedly makes sexist comments, for example, then it may be considered harassment, which is prohibited. I want to turn now to a particular type of hostile environment harassment, that is sexual assault or sexual violence. Sexual assault or sexual violence is an extreme form of sexual harassment and has no place at Carolina. Our policy defines sexual assault or sexual violence as having or attempting to have sexual contact with someone without their consent. Note that sexual contact is a fairly broad term. Most people know, of course, that rape and sexual assault are forms of sexual violence, but sometimes people are surprised to learn that other behavior, like unwanted sexual touching, is also considered to be sexual violence. We'll explore the term consent in detail in just a minute. The bill also prohibits interpersonal violence, what some call relationship or dating violence, and stalking. Both involve someone repeatedly harassing or threatening someone else and causing fear or substantial emotional distress. Finally, the policy prohibits retaliating against a person who has made a report to the EOC or participated in the investigation or resolution of an alleged policy violation. We hope, of course, that people are never harassed or discriminated against here at Carolina, as those are contrary to our values as Tar Heels. Still, if it should happen, we want people to feel comfortable reporting to the EOC and participating in our process. And for that reason, retaliating against is not to be tolerated. We could spend a whole day or more covering in detail everything in the policy on prohibited discrimination, harassment, and related misconduct. For today, I'd like you to understand that the key to our policy is respect. As I noted at the start of the session, being a member of the Carolina community means that our ideas, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are going to be challenged. That's part of the educational process. But we can challenge and be challenged with respect. This means we take time to listen to each other and ask thoughtful questions. We seek to understand each other's perspectives and be understood. And we extend grace to each other as we navigate new ideas and new experiences. Through respectful communication, we come to understand each other's personal experiences and identities. We also come to understand each other's boundaries. This brings me to consent. One very important way in which we expect you to engage in respectful communication, particularly around sexual activity and sexual relationships. Listening to and accepting someone's decision about sexual activity is a key way to show that you respect them. As you can see on this slide, consent to sexual activity requires that you and your sexual partner communicate. There must be an agreement to the form of sexual activity. Please know that this does not mean that you are expected to engage in sexual activity while at Carolina if you don't want to. Saying no to sex now or for your entire time at Carolina is certainly a decision that should be respected. If you decide to engage in sexual activity, our policy defines sexual assault or sexual violence as having or attempting to have sexual contact with someone without their consent. We used to say no means no. We used to think of sexual assault only if someone did say no or did. Today, we say yes means yes. Anything short of a yes in words or actions may be considered sexual assault. I won't read this slide to you word for word, but you can see that if your partner is not giving you feedback, if your partner is silent or is passive or not engaged in the sexual decision-making, you don't have consent. Previous sexual contact, even between two people who are dating, does not constitute consent. And taking advantage of another person who is incapacitated, who is mentally or physically unable to give consent, is not consent. On a college campus, incapacitation is most often the result of alcohol or other drugs. If you or your partner are using alcohol or drugs, your ability to effectively communicate about consent may be impaired. And you always have the right to stop sexual activity at any time. If your partner stops participating, seems to freeze up, hesitates, or of course says stop, then stop. Always check in with your partner. We hope that you will find Carolina is a close-knit, supportive community of students, faculty, and staff. Your resident advisor in your residence hall, your professors and university staff, many of whom you'll hear from in orientation, are here to be supportive resources for you and all of our students. There are times when a student might tell a resident advisor, a faculty member, or someone in the Office of the Dean of Students about a sexual assault or other form of harassment or discrimination. When a student shares information with an employee of the university, someone who's not confidential, like a mental health counselor or a doctor, that person may be required to share information with the EOC. The university requires this information sharing so that the EOC can respond promptly and compassionately to the student who has experienced sexual assault, discrimination, harassment, or related misconduct. When the EOC receives a report, we are essentially on notice that something may have happened and that someone may need information about support and their reporting options. So the EOC will reach out to the impacted student by email with an invitation to meet and offering support and reporting options. We want students to feel empowered with information, and we hope that this email that we will send helps people make informed choices about their next steps. When we receive information that a student has experienced harassment or discrimination, we keep that information private. We don't disclose personal information about a student to the larger campus community. We want folks to feel comfortable talking to us so that we can connect you with the support that you need. If you or someone you know feels that they need to talk to someone about the issues that we've briefly reviewed today, there are several confidential support options on campus, and they're listed on the left hand of the slide. Counseling and Psychological Services, or CAPS, is Carolina's free and confidential on-campus counseling service for all students. The Gender Violence Services Coordinators are folks who provide confidential support to students and employees impacted by sexual assault, relationship violence, or stalking. Students of any gender are encouraged to talk to Kayla or Holly, our Gender Violence Services Coordinators. And then we have the Confidential Ombuds Office. You can learn more about them by visiting safe.unc.edu. As the right hand of the slide shows, you can make a report to the university through the EOC, or you can contact UNC Police. When you contact the EOC, you will talk with one of our 3 report and response coordinators, whose job it is to listen, provide resources, and explain your options. The report and response coordinators can deal with a report of any kind of discrimination or harassment, including sexual violence, interpersonal violence, or stalking. And you can also reach out to me directly for reports of sexual harassment, sexual violence, interpersonal violence, and stalking. If you want to contact the EOC to discuss a situation, you can go to our website at eoc.unc.edu. There you'll find a button that reads Report an Incident. When you click on that button, a form will pop up, and you can provide us with as much or as little information as you would like. In addition to responding to allegations of discrimination, harassment, and related misconduct, Carolina provides a host of prevention, education, and awareness programs to help create a safe and welcoming campus. For a full list of prevention and awareness programs, please visit safe.unc.edu. And be sure to complete your online module, Sexual Prevention for Undergraduates, before classes begin. You'll receive a link to that and other required online modules soon if you're ready. From one Tar Heel to another, I'm excited to have you join us, and I wish you all the best. Thanks for your attention.